Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. Strap in. Coming and Going and I Am are two issues that aren't a chapter, but they flow into each other nicely. So Elias has recently stepped into his father's shoes as king, due to his father's sickness. Sonic and Tails plan to use a machine powered by the Chaos Emerald to awaken him from his coma. Using Star Post in Rotor's lab, they opened a rift into what has become a special zone now. An entity known as Feist rules over the special zone and has condensed all of the emeralds from the last chapter into a set of 7. Feist, who is in favor of our heroes for defeating Naugus, grants them an emerald for free, warning them that the next time won't be so easy. The royal family is finally able to awaken the king, and they all share a wholesome moment together. Sonic and Tails begin to leave, giving the family space to enjoy the king's awakening, but Sally stops them, telling them to give the emerald to Merlin, who had requested it for an unknown reason. Meeting with Knuckles, who is carrying a guiding star gem, Merlin explains that he plans to bring Tails' parents, Amadeus and Rosemary, back to Mobius. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, Mobius is the name of the planet this story takes place on. They're equivalent to Earth. Powering the star gem with the Chaos Emerald, they are able to warp to planet Argentum. Once there, Team Sonic spots battleships in the distance, and Amadeus explains that it's the Black Arms fighting against an alien race known as the Zorda. The Power family finally reunites, with this being Tails' first time actually meeting his parents in person. See, didn't I tell you that issue from 134 was going to be important later? They return home, and General Amadeus meets with Elias and is elated, hoping that Amadeus will continue working with the kingdom to make it greater. And Amadeus shares that he has ideas on how to make Acorn great again. Okay then. Knuckles later finds Sonic in the cemetery, housing Sir Connery and Tommy's tombstones, asking what's with the doom and gloom. They share a brotherly moment, with Sonic opening up about his worry over Fiona's recent disappearances since the leak issue, his grief at the loss of Sir Connery and Tommy, and the ever-growing list of villains that they have to contend with. Knuckles teases Sonic about seeming overwhelmed, and his usual persona comes back to the forefront, jokingly reassuring one another that things will be alright. They won't let the sacrifices that has occurred be in vain. Sonic shares one last concern with Knuckles, wondering if Shadow is willingly working with Eggman. We cut to Shadow, who is now confronting Eggman about the truth of Gerald's diary. Shadow grabs Eggman and Snively, who I'll touch on later, but for now, just know that he's Eggman's nephew who betrayed him during the Penders era, but he was redeemed and now is working for the Doctor. Shadow gets Snively to tell him where the diary is, snags out his hair, and then goes to retrieve the diary. Up until now, Eggman had Shadow believe that Gerald made him for the sole purpose of serving his grandson, but no more, as Shadow holds a disc with the truth. Realizing he won't be able to scan it at Eggman's base, he rushes over to Freedom Fighter HQ. Sonic at the HQ is upset about Fiona being MIA, and as Knuckles enters, Tails runs off. Sonic explains to Knuckles that Tails had feelings for Fiona, but had hoped that he was over it by now. Sonic then starts to think about what Scourge has said. Then Tails comes in, telling Sonic that Shadow is outside being attacked. Our heroes destroy the robots pursuing Shadow, who is flustered by the disc taking damage in the scuffle. Explaining everything, Shadow pleads with Sonic, asking him to uncover the truth behind his past. After scanning the disc, Tails explains that trying to dig up the data on it may damage it even more. Nicole offers to integrate them into the disc memory in order to interact with the data physically. Once inside, Nicole's appearance is revealed, as she had created a new form based on her studies of the Mobian people. Snively begins to attack the base, with Tails discovering that he put trackers in the hair that Shadow ripped off him earlier. Knuckles takes action, stating that he won't let Snively take away this opportunity from Shadow, as he knows more than anyone the feeling of being lost without any knowledge of the past, which is, in both Archie and game continuity, some of the realest dialogue we've gotten from Knuckles, as it completely aligns with who he is conceptually. Inside the disc, Shadow finds Maria on the Ark, who leads him, Nicole, and Sonic to Gerald. Time is of the essence, however, as the data is fragmenting all around them. Gerald fills in Shadow on the truth. And God do I love Ian for taking this opportunity to bring the comic continuity much closer to the game continuity, because Gerald pretty much tells him verbatim the same story that happened in Shadow the Hedgehog, the game. For those in need of a recap for 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog, Maria has a rare illness, so Gerald was seeking to create a life form that could produce the cure. Gerald was unable to create it on his own, so desperately, he decided to rely on the help of the Black Arms. Shadow is not only meant to be an ultimate life form that is immune to Maria's disease, but he's also meant to be a protector of the planet and a weapon against the Black Arms if they ever chose to threaten the Earth. They were supposed to be arriving this year, but were delayed due to their battle with the Zordon on the other side of the galaxy. The corruption of the data is reaching its apex, so our heroes must leave immediately. However, Shadow refuses to leave without having more questions answered. Maria makes a final gesture, asking again for Shadow to protect the world, and reassuring him that she will always be with him. Sonic grabs Shadow and makes it out of the digital matrix. As soon as they are out, Tails yells, informing them of the attack going on outside the base. Wasting no time, Shadow grabs Snively's hair, saves Knuckles by blitzing the mech, and then delivers the most iconic moment for him in all of Archie. He is the union of ideas, both dark and benign, but ultimately in the name of love. He is the ultimate life form. He is the protector of Mobius, and he tells Snively to return to Eggman and inform him that this is who he is. I want to take this moment to mention that in the ongoing IDW comics, Shadow's character isn't written how he was back in the day, often coming off as a character assassination in most regards. This is due to the new mandates Sega has placed on their writers in regards to the stories and how they write for the comics. There is a vision in mind now, one I can accept with the exception of Shadow's unfortunate writing. But this? No. This was Ian knowing damn well what makes Shadow, Shadow, and bringing back the version of the character that many people fell in love with, respected, and even adored into the Archie canon. He is no longer a lackey for Eggman. He is Shadow the Hedgehog. Pleasantries aside, the issue ends with Sonic asking a question: where the hell is Fiona Fox? Amy swings her hammer at Fiona, accusing her of cheating on Sonic with Scourge. Turns out back in issue 165, when Sonic and Scourge were fighting, Sleuth revealed to Tails that Fiona had indeed been cheating, and Amy just now caught wind of this from Tails, which, and pause for just a second, I'm not a huge fan of this reveal. While it works to carry over the tension from the last time Fiona was in the story, it arguably has a few ramifications on Tails' character. Firstly, why didn't Tails mention this sooner? When Scourge first taunted Sonic about it and Fiona denied it, Tails could have refuted and made this thing a lot easier. It would have given the accusation more substance outside of it just being a taunt from one guy if another guy is hearing it from Sleuth. And in this scenario, the love triangle situation shouldn't even be a factor, as Tails would have been privy to Fiona conspiring with the enemy. Maybe I'm missing something here. But yeah, no, this twist doesn't work like Ian might have hoped it would, but I digress. Sonic calms Amy down, thanking her and telling her that he will handle it from here. Sonic begins to question Fiona, and they break into an argument with her mentioning how she helped the Freedom Fighters in the Birthday Bash and in the League issues. Sonic accuses her of not being interested in him until after Scourge had been impersonating him as Evil Sonic. Scourge interrupts, saying that Sonic is correct in his assumption, confirming that she had only dated Sonic as she thought he would be like Evil Sonic. Scourge taunts Sonic for his bad dating record with the women again before Tails swoops down, pleading Fiona not to go with Scourge. She tells him that he can't count on anyone, which is probably the worst thing that she could. Yeah, no, f this chick. Sonic takes on Fiona and Scourge, with Scourge stating that he isn't simply dating Fiona to mess with Sonic, but that he truly loves her. In his dimension, women are born cold and fierce and violent, while Fiona chooses to be that way, which he finds hot. To add insult to injury, Scourge implies that Sonic fears him, because it would only take one bad day for Sonic to turn out just like him. Then Sonic knocks him down, retorting that Scourge fears him because it would just take a little bit of decency and Scourge will turn out just like him, which bewilders him for a moment. Fiona intervenes, but so do Amy and Tails, ready to take them both out. But Fiona and Scourge make their escape via warp ring. Tails and Sonic have a heart-to-heart, confidently saying that Fiona is wrong, that Tails can still believe in the Freedom Fighters, and Sonic replies that of course he would never break Tails' trust. Sounding much less confident now, Tails runs off, saying that he wants to go check in with his mother. Antoine comes along, asking what happened, and Sonic fills him in. Antoine then asks Sonic and Amy to accompany him on his hardest journey yet. That journey being marriage, as Antoine needed moral support as he proposed to Bunny. Amy nudges Sonic, asking if it's giving him any ideas, and he says not a one. Excited about the news, they begin heading back to Freedom HQ. At the HQ, Sally is in communication with Knuckles and the Chaotix, who are accompanying Mina's concert tour as bodyguards. Knuckles shares with Sally that he got wind of Rouge apparently stealing the Master Emerald and planning to auction it off. She asks if he is able to confirm with his father Locke that that is indeed the case, and Knuckles makes it clear that they are currently not on speaking terms, but he knows where the auction is being held. As Sonic and co return to the base, she insists that Knuckles leaves it to the Freedom Fighters to take care of it on his behalf. Later that night, in the marshlands, the team consisting of Sonic, Antoine, Sally, and Bunny split up for espionage. Partnered with Antoine, Sonic shares a bit of frustration regarding Sally, upset that Sally sent them on a mission as soon as Antoine proposed, and a little bothered by her lack of being around in Freedom headquarters. Admittedly, Sonic is still a teenager, and Antoine attempts to correct his childish thinking by reminding him that Sally has a responsibility over the kingdom, that she's dealing with her father's declining health, and that she was stressed thinking that Sonic had been dead for an entire year in space. He reminds Sonic that while they are all in rough spots, that they are going to be there for each other. Sonic thanks Antoine for being a voice of reason. On the other side of the marsh, Sally confesses to Bunny that her decision to go on the mission was selfish, as she hasn't been on one in quite some time and is admittedly jealous of the engagement, as Sonic and her had been distant for quite some time. Before Bunny can comfort Sally though, Fang shows up, having the girl swoop in and apprehend him. Sonic and Antoine, however, are ambushed by Bean and Bark on extreme gear. Antoine's swift swordplay makes quick work of Bark while Sonic takes out Bean. Deeper in the marsh, we find Rouge waiting for a bidder to arrive to claim the Master Emerald, but she could have never expected Mogul and Naugus to show up. Mogul explains to her that someone took his minions, the Destructics, and was later freed by Adam. Mogul has lost his power and had to rely on Naugus's power to preserve themselves when inside the Great Vineyard, but it came at the cost of Naugus's mind. Mogul plans to use the Master Emerald to restore his power, but before he can grab it, Sonic and Bunny swoops in, stopping him in his tracks. Naugus prepares to attack them from the shadows, but Sonic bets 50 rings that he will attack from behind. And I'd say someone definitely owes Sonic a super ring. Mogul begins his usual villainous monologues about how he is still powerful enough to take him down when Sally jumps in and mows him down with her vehicle. Talk about making one hell of an entrance. With 5 villains down, there's only one more to go, Mrs. Bat herself, who reveals that she was on their side the entire time. She used a table and a lamp to bait and lure people out who may have wanted the emerald. She never stole it. The Freedom Fighters question why she never informed them of her plan to bait out any of the Rogues Gallery, as Knuckles had been under the impression that Angel Island had fallen out of the sky. Rouge claims that she felt that the ends justify the means, and besides, no harm, no foul, right? After all that, Antoine asked Sonic and Sally to be the best man and maiden for the wedding, and they happily accept. We turn to Eggman's fleet, where he asks Snively for an update on the status of the Hooligan Trio. Snively informs him that Fang's mission was a bust, but reassures him that his other plans are coming together smoothly, concluding that issue. The wedding issue is very light on plot, but uses that pretty well to play with contrast. Most of this issue is banter about the wedding, some somberness over the Fiona incident, couples old and new making teases at one another, and the girls having a ball trying out different outfits, except Julie Sue, who agrees with Knuckles in saying that while the engaged are welcome to it, the ceremony seems a bit overzealous for the union of two people. There's also a jab that Amadeus makes at Elias behind his back, saying that he may no longer be in power soon. Strange. However, SBO is missing from the bachelor party, and Knuckles informs Sonic that he is currently on a mission. This issue jumps back and forth between the wedding preparations and the espionage on Eggman's fortress to build some sense of contrast. While the narration doesn't take away from SBO's mission, I do feel that this scene could have been enhanced with inner monologue instead to show that SBO in this moment is alone. Writer Daniel Barnes of the IDW Comics is currently writing a stellar example of how one can lean a bit more into the horror with moments like these, and I do feel that this was a missed opportunity. Anyways, SBO managed to find out about Eggman's new plot and panics, attempting to escape the fortress but is immediately cornered. As the wedding comes to its climax with Bunny and Antoine finally married, Eggman vaporizes SBO and plans to come for Knothole.